The stars had always been quiet. For thousands of years, humanity looked up at the night sky and wondered if they were alone. They sent radio signals into the darkness, built telescopes and satellites. They dreamed of meeting other beings from distant worlds. They should have been more careful about what they wished for. The Valoran Empire was old. It had existed for 40,000 years, spreading across the galaxy like a disease. They had conquered over 800 star systems. Their warships were the size of small moons. Their soldiers numbered in the trillions. They had never lost a war, because they had never fought anyone who could truly fight back. When Valoran scouts discovered Earth, they laughed. The small blue planet orbited an ordinary yellow star in an unremarkable corner of the galaxy. The scouts detected electromagnetic signals, radio waves, television broadcasts, primitive satellite communications. To them, these signals meant one thing: another weak civilization ready to be crushed. Admiral Corrin received the report on his flagship, the Eternal Conquest. He was a decorated commander with over 200 successful planetary invasions. His scales were dark purple, and his 4 eyes showed no emotion as he read the data about Earth. 7 billion inhabitants, he said to his officers. No faster-than-light technology. No energy shields. No plasma weapons. This will be finished in a single day. He ordered the invasion fleet to prepare. 10,000 warships gathered at the edge of the solar system, their engines glowing like angry stars. Each ship carried enough firepower to destroy a continent. Together, they could crack a planet in half, on Earth. It was a peaceful Tuesday evening in Korea. Yuna was working late at the Daejeon Space Observatory, running routine scans of the outer solar system. She was 28 years old, with tired eyes and coffee-stained fingers. She had spent 6 years looking for signs of alien life. Tonight, she found them. Her computer screamed in alert. Yuna dropped her coffee cup, and it shattered on the floor. She stared at her screen with wide eyes. The data made no sense. There were objects appearing near Jupiter, thousands of them. They were not asteroids. They were not comets. They were moving in perfect formation. No, she whispered. This cannot be real. She ran every test she knew. She checked for errors. She recalibrated her instruments. But the data remained the same. 10,000 objects, each one larger than any structure humanity had ever built, were heading toward Earth. Yuna picked up her phone with shaking hands. She called the emergency number that every observatory scientist knew but hoped to never use. 3,000 kilometers away, in a bunker beneath Seoul, General Taiho received the call. He was 63 years old, with gray hair and a calm face that had seen many secrets. He listened to Yuna's frantic report without interrupting. How long until they reach Earth? He asked. At their current speed, 18 hours. Taiho closed his eyes. He had prepared for this moment his entire life. His father had prepared for it. His grandfather had prepared for it. For generations, a small group of people around the world had kept a secret so important that it could never be written down or spoken aloud in public. Thank you, Dr. Yuna, Taiho said. You have done your duty. Now I must do mine. He ended the call and turned to his aide, a young soldier named Junho. Contact the other keepers, Taiho ordered. All of them. Tell them the day has come. Junho's face went pale. He had heard stories about the keepers, but he never truly believed them. Sir, are you saying yes? Wake the old systems? Notify Dr. Minji. Tell her to begin the activation sequence. Deep beneath the mountains of Korea, in a facility that appeared on no map and existed in no official record, Dr. Minji received the message. She was 45 years old, a brilliant physicist, who had given up a normal life to guard something she barely understood. The facility was ancient, not centuries old, millennia old. The walls were made of a metal that human science could not identify. The machines inside hummed with an energy that followed no known laws of physics. Everything in this place had been built by beings who visited Earth long before humans learned to write. The architects, the keepers called them. No one knew what they looked like or where they came from. But they had left 2 things behind, a warning and a weapon. The warning was simple. Others will come. They will try to take what is yours. When that day arrives, you will have one chance to survive. The weapon was something else entirely. Minji had studied it for 20 years, and she still did not fully understand what it could do. She only knew that it was meant to be used once, and only in the most desperate moment. She placed her hand on the central console. The ancient machines responded to her touch, glowing with soft blue light. Screens flickered to life, displaying symbols in a language that predated human civilization. "Beginning activation sequence," she said into her communicator. "Estimated time to full power, 16 hours. Above her, the invasion fleet emerged from hyperspace beyond Earth's moon. Admiral Corrin stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the blue planet with hungry eyes. "Send the standard message," he commanded. "Give them 12 hours to surrender. If they refuse, we begin the cleansing." His communications officer obeyed. Across every radio frequency, every television channel, every digital network on Earth, the same message appeared. An alien face filled billions of screens' purple scales, 4 cold eyes, and a voice that spoke in perfect, translated English. "People of Earth, I am Admiral Corrin of the Valoran Empire. Your planet is now under our control. You have 12 hours to surrender unconditionally. If you comply, some of you will be allowed to live as servants. If you resist, your entire species will be erased from existence. The choice is yours." The message erupted across the globe. Governments held emergency meetings. Military forces went on high alert. People ran through the streets, screaming, crying, praying. But in the bunker beneath Seoul, General Taiho lit a cigarette and smiled. "They have no idea," he said quietly. "They have no idea what they have awakened." In the ancient facility, Mingi watched the power levels rise. The weapon was waking up, stretching after a sleep of 10,000 years. And somewhere in the stars, the architect's final gift prepared to show the universe why humanity was never meant to be conquered. The clock was ticking. 12 hours remained, but humanity only needed 16. The world was falling apart. In New York, people filled the streets, looking up at the sky with terrified eyes. In Tokyo, trains stopped running as workers abandoned their posts. In London, churches overflowed with people praying for salvation. Everywhere, the same question echoed. What do we do now? The United Nations held an emergency meeting. World leaders appeared on screens, their faces pale with fear. The American president spoke first, his voice trembling. "We have assessed our military capabilities," he said. "Our nuclear weapons, our missiles, our aircraft, none of them can reach the alien fleet. Even if they could, our technology is nothing compared to theirs." The Russian president nodded grimly. "We cannot fight. We cannot run. Perhaps surrender is our only option." Arguments erupted. Some leaders demanded resistance. Others called for immediate surrender. A few suggested hiding in bunkers and hoping the aliens would leave. No one had a real solution, but one screen remained silent. The Korean representative, a woman named Suman, watched the chaos with calm eyes. She was one of the keepers, and she knew something the others did not. "There is another way," she finally said. The room went quiet. All eyes turned to her screen. "What way?" the American president asked. "What could possibly save us now?" Suman smiled gently. "Trust us. Trust the keepers. We have prepared for this moment for a very long time." Before anyone could respond, General Taiho's voice came through on a secure channel. "The weapon is charging. We need 4 more hours. Keep the aliens talking. Do not surrender. Do not provoke them. Just give us time." The world leaders exchanged confused looks. They did not understand what was happening, but they had no better options, so they agreed to wait. Meanwhile, Admiral Corrin grew impatient. He stood on his bridge, watching Earth rotate slowly below him. His fleet surrounded the planet like a net around a trapped fish. He had given the humans 12 hours, but he was not a patient being. "They are not responding to our demands," his aide reported. "Their communications are chaotic. They appear to be arguing among themselves." Corrin snorted. Typical primitive behavior. They cannot even agree on how to die. He turned to his weapons officer. Prepare a demonstration. Something small but visible. Let them see what happens to those who waste our time. Target selected, a small island in the Pacific Ocean. Population 0. The strike will be visible from their satellites. Good. Fire when ready. On one of the massive warships, plasma cannons powered up. Energy crackled along their barrels, enough power to level a mountain. The targeting systems locked onto the island in the ancient facility beneath Korea. Dr. Minji watched her screens flash with warning signals. They are firing, she reported. One ship. Low-power shot. Aimed at an uninhabited island. General Taiho's voice came through her earpiece. Can the shield stop it? Minji looked at the power readings. The weapon was only at 40%. The full system was not ready. But the shield, the outer layer of protection the architects had left behind, was already active. It had been active for 10,000 years, sleeping just beneath the surface of the world. The shield will hold, she said. But they will know something is wrong. Let them wonder. Let them fear. In space, the Valoran warship fired. A beam of burning plasma shot toward Earth, bright enough to blind sensors across the solar system. It moved at incredible speed, crossing the distance in seconds, and then it vanished. The beam did not hit the island. It did not explode in the atmosphere. It simply disappeared, as if it had never existed. Nari was a young lieutenant on Admiral Korin's flagship. Her job was to monitor energy readings and report any unusual activity. She had done this job for 5 years without ever seeing anything truly strange until now. Admiral, she said, her voice shaking. The plasma beam. Something absorbed it. Korin turned sharply. Absorbed? Impossible. Nothing can absorb a focused plasma strike. The readings are clear, sir. The energy did not disperse. It did not reflect. It was absorbed by something on the planet's surface, or rather, something around the planet. Korin walked to her station and looked at the data himself. His 4 eyes narrowed. For the first time in 200 years, he felt something he had almost forgotten. Doubt. Increase power, he ordered. Fire again. Maximum strength. 10 warships fired simultaneously. 10 plasma beams, each one capable of destroying a city, streaked toward Earth. All 10 vanished. The bridge fell silent. Officers exchanged nervous glances. This was not supposed to happen. The Valoran Empire had crushed hundreds of civilizations. They had faced shields and barriers before, but nothing like this. Nothing that could simply make their weapons disappear. Admiral Korin stared at Earth, his confidence cracking. What are these creatures? He whispered in the facility. Mingi allowed herself a small smile. The shield was working. The architect's first gift was protecting humanity, while the second gift charged. 60% power, she announced. 3 hours remaining. But General Taiho knew they could not simply hide behind the shield. The aliens would eventually find a way to break through. Or they would destroy the planet itself. He needed to buy more time and he needed to shake their confidence. He opened a communication channel to the Valoran fleet. His face appeared on every screen on every alien warship. Admiral Korin, Taiho said calmly. I see you have been testing our defenses. Korin's eyes widened. How did this primitive creature access their communications? Who are you? I am General Taiho of Earth, and I am here to give you one chance to leave our system and never return. Korin laughed, but the sound was hollow. You threaten us? We have 10,000 warships. You have nothing. We have more than you know, Taiho replied. Your empire has conquered 800 worlds. You have killed trillions of innocent beings. You think you are powerful? You think you are unstoppable? He leaned closer to the camera.
You are wrong.
Korin felt a chill run down his spine. There was something in this human's eyes, something ancient, something knowing. It was the look of a predator, not prey. We have absorbed your attacks, Taiho continued. We will absorb whatever else you throw at us. And when we are ready, when the time comes, you will learn why the architects chose to protect this world. The transmission ended. Korin stood frozen. Around him, His officers waited in terrified silence. Finally, the admiral made his decision. All ships, he commanded. Full planetary bombardment. Now, do not stop until that planet is ash. 10,000 warships powered their weapons. The greatest military force in the galaxy prepared to unleash everything it had, but deep beneath Korea. The power level reached 70%, then 80, then 90. Minji's hands trembled over the console. Almost there, she whispered. Just a little more time. The sky above Earth began to glow. General Taiho stood alone in the command center, watching screens that showed the alien fleet from every angle. 10,000 warships hung in space like angry wasps, their weapons glowing with deadly energy. In minutes, they would fire everything they had at Earth. He should have been afraid. Any normal person would have been, but Taiho had spent his entire life preparing for this moment. His family had carried this burden for generations, passing down secrets that most people thought were myths. Now those myths were about to become reality. How much time do we need? He asked into his communicator. Dr. Mingy's voice came back, tight with stress. 92% charged. We need at least 10 more minutes. You will have them. Taiho adjusted his uniform and cleared his throat. He was about to address an alien empire that had destroyed countless civilizations. He was about to speak for all of humanity. The weight of 7 billion lives pressed down on his shoulders. He opened the communication channel again. This time his signal did not just reach the Valoran fleet. It reached every ship, every station, every outpost in the Valoran Empire. The Architect's technology made sure of that. This message is for all members of the Valoran Empire, Taiho began. His voice was calm, steady, like a man discussing the weather. I am General Taiho of Earth. Your admiral has chosen war. He has chosen to attack our world. And now I must tell you what that choice means. Across the galaxy, billions of Valorans stopped to listen. They had never heard anything like this before. No conquered species had ever spoken to them with such confidence. You think you know us, Taiho continued. You think we are primitive, weak, easy to destroy? You have conquered 800 worlds, and you believe Earth will be just another number in your records. He paused, letting the words sink in. You are wrong. Admiral Korin watched the transmission with growing fury. Cut the signal, he ordered. We cannot, sir, Nari reported, her voice trembling. He is using some kind of technology we do not recognize. It is overriding all our systems. Impossible. But it was not impossible. It was happening. Taiho continued speaking, his eyes hard as stone. Long before your empire existed, beings called the Architects traveled the universe. They were old when the stars were young. They planted life on worlds across the galaxy, hoping that someday intelligent beings would rise. In the ancient facility, Minji watched the power levels climb. 94%. 95. The machines hummed louder, vibrating with energy that seemed to come from another dimension. The Architects came to Earth, Taiho said. They found a young species, curious, creative, capable of both great love and great destruction. They saw potential in us, and they left us a gift. Korin felt his blood run cold, did not believe in legends or myths. But something about this human's words made him deeply uncomfortable. They left us protection, Taiho explained. A shield that cannot be broken by any weapon your empire possesses. You have already tested it. You have already failed. Across the fleet, officers checked their weapon systems. Every shot fired at Earth had been absorbed without a trace, not deflected, not blocked, absorbed, as if the energy had simply ceased to exist. But that is only the first gift, Taiho said. The second gift is different. He took a deep breath. This was the part that haunted him. This was the truth that had been passed down through his family for 10,000 years. The Architects knew that some beings would not respect peace. Some would only understand destruction. They gave us a weapon that cannot be stopped, cannot be survived, cannot be undone. 97%. Your empire has killed trillions of innocent beings, Taiho continued, his voice growing harder. You have enslaved entire species. You have burned worlds and laughed at the screams of the dying. The Architects knew beings like you would come, and they gave us the power to answer. Corrin grabbed his communicator. All ships, fire now. Everything. Destroy that planet before it is too late, Taiho interrupted, as if he could hear the Admiral's thoughts. It has been too late since the moment you entered our system. We gave you a chance to leave. You chose violence. 99%, 10,000 warships fired. The sky lit up with plasma and fire. Enough energy to crack a planet in half streamed toward Earth. Every beam vanished. The shield held, glowing bright blue around the entire planet. It looked like Earth had wrapped itself in a cocoon of light. Then the light began to change. In the facility, Minji stared at the console. The display showed 100%. The weapon was fully charged. It was ready. Her hands shook. Knew what would happen when she activated it. The architects had left detailed instructions, written in a language that humanity had slowly learned to understand over thousands of years. The weapon would not just destroy the Valoran fleet, it would erase them. It would follow their hyperspace routes, their communication networks, their entire infrastructure. It would find every Valoran in the galaxy and remove them from existence. Not kill them. Erase them. As if they had never been born. Dr. Mingi Taiho's voice came through the communicator. Is it ready? Yes, she whispered. General, are we sure about this? Once I activate it, there is no going back. An entire species will. They made their choice, Taiho said, his voice heavy with sadness. They chose to come here. They chose to attack. They chose to threaten 7 billion lives without a moment of hesitation. Mingi closed her eyes. She thought about her daughter, Jiwan, who was hiding in a shelter somewhere above. She thought about all the children on Earth, looking up at the sky with fear. She thought about the 800 worlds the Valorans had already destroyed, the billions of beings who had cried out for help and received only death. Forgive us, she whispered to no one in particular. Maybe to the universe. Maybe to herself. She pressed her hand against the ancient console, and the weapon awoke. The facility filled with blinding light. The machines roared with power that seemed to tear at the fabric of reality. Energy flowed upward, through miles of rock and soil, bursting from the ground in pillars of white fire that shot into the sky. All across Earth, similar pillars emerged. In mountains and deserts, in oceans and forests, the architect's hidden network activated for the first and last time. The sky turned white. Admiral Corrin watched through the view screen of his flagship. He had seen many strange things in his long career, but he had never seen anything like this. What is happening? He demanded. No one could answer. The white light spread from Earth like a wave, expanding in all directions at impossible speed. It touched the moon in seconds, reached the fleet in moments, and then Admiral Corrin understood. In the last instant of his existence, he finally knew what the humans were. He tried to scream, but there was no time. The pulse moved faster than light. It moved faster than thought. It moved through dimensions that the Valoran scientists had never discovered and could never understand. Admiral Corrin had exactly 3 milliseconds to feel terror, for he stopped existing, not died. Not destroyed, erased. 1 moment. He was there, a living being with 40,000 years of racial memory. 2 centuries of personal experience, thoughts and fears and dreams. The next moment, he was nothing. Not even a memory. The same thing happened to every Valoran on his ship. 700 crew members vanished in the same instant. Their bodies did not fall. Their atoms did not scatter. They simply were not anymore. And then the ship itself followed. From Earth. The humans watched through their telescopes and satellites. The entire invasion fleet's 10,000 massive warships flickered like candles in a wind. One by one, they faded from existence. No explosions, no debris, just ... nothing. In Seoul, Yunho stared at his monitor with his mouth hanging open. He was a signals analyst, trained to track communications and energy patterns. What he was seeing now broke every law of physics he had ever learned. The ships are gone, he whispered. All of them. Every single one. General Taiho stood behind him, watching the screens in silence. His face showed no joy, no triumph. Only a deep, terrible sadness. It is not over, Taiho said quietly. It has only begun. He was right. The pulse did not stop at the edge of the solar system. It kept going, spreading outward through the galaxy at speeds that defied comprehension. It followed the hyperspace routes the Valorans had used for millennia. It traced their communication networks, their trade lanes, their military channels everywhere the pulse went. Valorans vanished. On Valor Prime, the capital world of the Empire, 12 billion beings went about their daily lives. They had not yet received word of the failed invasion. They did not know that their fleet had been destroyed. They did not know that death was coming for them at speeds beyond imagination. A mother was feeding her child. A worker was repairing a machine. A student was studying ancient history. A politician was giving a speech about the glory of conquest. None of them finished. What they were doing, the pulse arrived without warning. It washed over the planet like a silent tide. And in one heartbeat, every Valoran on the world was gone. Buildings stood empty. Vehicles stopped in the middle of roads. Food was left cooking on stoves. But the people, all 12 billion of them, had simply ceased to exist. The same scene repeated across 800 star systems. On military bases and colony worlds, on space stations and transport ships, the Valorans disappeared. 40,000 years of civilization, 12 trillion individual lives, erased in less than an hour. Back on Earth, Dr. Minji collapsed against the console. The ancient machines were powering down, their purpose fulfilled. The weapon had done what it was designed to do. The threat was eliminated, but the cost. Min. G thought about the numbers. 12 trillion lives. Mothers and children. Workers and artists. Soldiers who followed orders and civilians who never held a weapon. All gone. Tears streamed down her face. What have we done? She whispered. Her assistant, Dr. Sung-ho, stood frozen nearby. He was a young physicist, brilliant but inexperienced. He had helped maintain the ancient systems for 5 years, never truly believing they would ever be used. We survived, he said slowly. That is what we did. We survived. At what cost? Mingi demanded. 12 trillion lives, Sung-ho. An entire species wiped from existence. How are we any different from them now? Sung-ho did not have an answer. General Taiho's voice came through the communicator, calm and steady as always. Dr. Mingi, please report to the command center. We need to discuss what happens next. Minji wiped her eyes and stood up straight. There would be time for grief later. Right now, humanity needed leadership. In the command center, the world leaders were gathered on their screens again. But their expressions had changed. The fear and panic from before had been replaced by something else: shock, awe, and a deep unease. The American president spoke first. General Taiho, what just happened? Our satellites show the alien fleet is completely gone. Where did they go? Taiho sat down heavily in his chair. He suddenly looked very old. They are gone, he said simply. Not just the fleet. The entire Valoran Empire. Every world they controlled. Every ship. Every soldier. Every citizen. Screens erupted in chaos. Leaders shouted questions. Military commanders demanded explanations. Scientists begged for details. Taiho raised his hand, and slowly the noise faded. 10,000 years ago, beings called the Architects visited Earth, he explained. They gave our ancestors a choice: remain alone in the universe, vulnerable to any threat that might come, or accept a weapon that could protect us from anything. He took a deep breath. Our ancestors accepted. They built the facility I have been guarding. They passed down the knowledge, generation after generation. We hoped the weapon would never be needed. We prayed that no one would come for us. But they came, the Russian president said quietly. Yes, and now they are gone. All of them, forever. Silence filled the command center. The weight of what had happened pressed down on everyone. Finally, the Japanese Prime Minister asked the question that was on everyone's mind. General, you said this weapon can only be used once? What happens now? What if others come? Taiho smiled grimly. they will come. Word will spread across the galaxy about what happened here. Other civilizations will learn that a small blue planet erased the mightiest empire in the galaxy in less than an hour. He leaned forward. Some will be terrified of us. Some will want revenge. Some will simply be curious. We cannot hide anymore. Earth has announced itself to the universe in the loudest possible way. Minji entered the command center at that moment, her face still pale from crying. She took her place beside Taiho. But the weapon is spent, she added. The architect's gift is gone. If anyone attacks us now, we have only our own technology to defend ourselves. Then we must build, Taiho said firmly. We must prepare. We must become strong enough to survive whatever comes next. He looked at the world leaders on their screens. The age of isolation is over. Humanity must unite, or we will not survive what is coming. Outside, the sun was rising over a changed world. The sky was clear, the alien fleet nothing but a memory. But everyone knew that the real challenges were only beginning. Earth was no longer a quiet. Hidden planet Earth was now the world that destroyed an empire, and the galaxy would never forget. 200 years passed. Humanity changed in ways that no one could have predicted. The nations of Earth united under a single government, not because they suddenly loved each other, but because they had no choice. The universe was watching, and a divided species would not survive. New cities rose toward the sky. Ships that could travel between stars were built in orbital factories. Colonies appeared on Mars, on the moons of Jupiter, on worlds beyond the solar system. Humanity spread like seeds on the wind, planting themselves across a dozen star systems. But they never forgot what they had done. The Valoran genocide, as it came to be called, haunted humanity's collective memory. Schools taught about it. Memorial days honored the dead. Philosophers debated whether it had been necessary or monstrous. Religious leaders asked whether humanity had lost its soul in exchange for survival. There were no easy answers, General. Taiho died 30 years after the invasion. Peacefully in his sleep, Dr. Mingi lived another 40 years. Spending her final decades writing about the architects and their technology, she never stopped crying when she thought about the 12 trillion lives that had been erased. "We survived," she wrote in her final journal entry, "but I wonder every day if we deserve to." The galaxy stayed silent for 2 centuries. No alien ships approached Earth. No signals came from distant stars. The other civilizations had seen what happened to the Valorans, and they were afraid. But fear does not last forever. Hai-Hoon was 35 years old when the delegation arrived. She was General Taiho's great-granddaughter, and she had inherited his position as leader of the Keepers. The ancient facility beneath Korea was now a museum, its machines silent and empty. But the Keepers still existed, still trained, still waited for whatever would come next. The delegation consisted of 50 species. Their ships appeared at the edge of the solar system, moving slowly, broadcasting signals of peace. They did not come with weapons. They did not come with demands. They came with questions. Hyung met them on the moon, a diplomatic station that humanity had built for exactly this purpose. The aliens came in all shapes and sizes. Some had tentacles, some had wings, some floated in anti-gravity bubbles. But they all shared one thing: fear in their eyes. The leader of the delegation was a tall being with silver skin and 3 arms. Her name was impossible for human tongues to pronounce, so she simply called herself the Speaker. "We have traveled far to meet you," the Speaker said. Her voice was translated by a device around her neck. "For 200 years, the galaxy has wondered about Earth, about humans, about what happened to the Valoran Empire." Hai-Hoon nodded calmly. She had prepared for this moment her entire life, just as her ancestors had prepared for the invasion. "We are happy to meet you," she said. "We have waited a long time for someone to come in peace." The Speaker's 3 eyes blinked nervously. The Valorans were the most powerful civilization in the galaxy. They had conquered more worlds than any other. They had existed for 40,000 years. "Yes, and you destroyed them, completely, in less than 1 hour." Hai-Hoon took a deep breath. This was the moment of truth. This was when humanity would define itself to the galaxy. "We did not want to destroy them," she said carefully. We gave them a chance to leave. We warned them. They chose to attack anyway. But how? The speaker's voice cracked with emotion. How is such a thing possible? Our scientists have studied the data for centuries. There is no explanation. No technology that could do what you did. Hai-Hoon walked to a window and looked out at the stars. So many of them now had human colonies. So many more were still unknown, waiting to be explored. Long ago, beings called the Architects visited our world, she began. They were ancient beyond measure. They had seen civilizations rise and fall across billions of years, and they chose to protect us. Why? The speaker asked. Why would they protect your species? We do not know. Perhaps they saw something in us, some potential, some spark that they wanted to nurture. Perhaps we were simply lucky. But they left us a gift. A weapon that could be used only once, only in the most desperate moment. And you used it. Yes. Hoon turned back to face the delegation. Her eyes were sad but steady. The Valorans gave us no choice. They came to destroy us, to enslave us, to add our world to their list of conquests. We tried to warn them. They did not listen. The speaker was silent for a long moment. The other aliens whispered among themselves in languages Hai-Hoon could not understand. Are you still a threat? The speaker finally asked. Do you still possess this weapon? No, the weapon is gone. It was designed for a single use, and that use is past. If anyone attacks Earth now, we will defend ourselves with our own technology, ships, and soldiers and shields that we've built ourselves. Then you are vulnerable. Hai-Hoon smiled, and there was something dangerous in that smile, perhaps. But remember what we did when we had no ships, no technology, nothing but a single weapon and the will to survive. Remember what we are capable of when our backs are against the wall? She stepped closer to the speaker. We are humanity. We do not start wars. We do not seek conquest. We explore. We build. We create. We have made many mistakes, and we carry the weight of the Valoran extinction on our souls. But we learn from our mistakes, grow. We become better. She looked at each alien in the delegation, one by one. Come to us in peace, and you will find friends. Come to us in war, and you will find something else entirely. The Architects chose to protect us for a reason. Perhaps it was because they knew what we could become, not just destroyers, but builders. Not just warriors, but peacemakers. The speaker bowed her head slowly. Then we offer friendship, she said. Our peoples have suffered under Valoran rule for millennia. When you erased them, you freed 800 worlds. Many see you as liberators. Many see us as monsters, Hai-Hoon acknowledged. We accept both views. History will judge us in time. In the ancient facility beneath Korea, now silent and peaceful, a young man named Doyon walked through the empty halls. He was Dr. Minji's great-grandson, the latest in a long line of keepers. The machines around him had not moved in 2 centuries. The weapon was gone, its purpose fulfilled, but the Architects had left more than just a weapon. They had left knowledge that humanity was only beginning to understand. Doyon stopped before a wall covered in ancient symbols. He had spent years translating them. The message was simple. You have passed the first test. You have survived. Now comes the second test. What will you do with survival? Will you become like those you destroyed? Or will you become something greater? Doyon smiled and touched the ancient stone. Something greater, he whispered. We will become something greater. Outside, the stars waited. The galaxy watched. And humanity stepped forward into the light. Ready at last to take their place among the stars, not as conquerors, not as victims, but as equals. The story of Earth was only beginning.